Recording is started, and it is Wednesday, July the 8th, 2020, and it's about 8:34 p.m. Welcome to Introduction to Corrections. My name is Richard Wright. Um, Many of you are in this class, have never had classes with me before, but let's see, I have talked to one of you. I remember Trinity, talking to her, and then I remember seeing several of you um, post information on the in the social media section there. Uh, in that room, that social room there, where you tell about yourself and so forth and so on. And then you saw the information that I shared with you. I have also discovered a few of you in this class that want to take on the task of doing what I did, and that is to become a lawyer. So I'll be happy to help those of you along that road. And At least one of you I know, I don't remember who it was, has a spouse who works in corrections. I don't remember which one. If it is, you can just type in the chat box who it is because you put it on the social information. But I the last time I taught this course, and I've been teaching it now for, oh gosh, I don't know, several years now. Um, I never worked in corrections myself, but I worked with so many correction officers down through the years in my professional career. And whether it's as an attorney or as an investigator or as a police officer, that I've worked with so many. And then I've had several students who have gone high up in the Department of Corrections. One of my students in particular, I can mention her name. Her name is Nina Watts. She was a student of mine and rose up to become a major, which is the highest rank before becoming the warden at Stateville. Those of you who are in Illinois might be familiar with that. It's close to where the Romeoville campus is and close to where I live in the Plainfield area. And we're going to have a little fun here. And you're going to have to make sure, I'm going to just say this from the beginning. You must follow the rubric. This 5.5 class goes so fast that before you know it, it will be over. And many students miss out and don't score well because they don't follow the rubric on the written assignments. And it is so important. And I'm going to take time to explain a very, very, very important point, and to make sure that you understand it. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. I plan on getting through it around 10ish, but last night I ended up going at least 10:30ish. So that may happen the first week because I want to make sure that you totally get this. This can be a very easy class. I've been teaching this class. It was an 11-week class when I first started it, and we had a course project that was a real challenge. And we rewrote the assignments so that we don't have the course project anymore, but you do have your written assignments, your discussion posts, and quizzes. So let's get right with it. Sharing the screen. All righty. So right off the bat, you see instructor information box is important for you to be aware and understand that box. I am unique among professors because I connect with my students more often than any professor in the whole school. And I've been doing that, and I love doing that. Um, and I'm not kidding when I say that. I am here to help you, to be of support to you, to be of encouragement to you, and to help you achieve the goal of student success, which is so important to me because of the fact that when you achieve student success, then you are also going to be a successful professional in your fields, whatever area that is in criminal justice. And that's what I like about my job is I get a chance to help students. It doesn't matter whether you're struggling or not, but please, you must let me know. I am not going to be following you around. If I see your assignments aren't done, I'll put comments in there. If you don't understand the comments or want reiteration of the comments, use the processes that you see in this box. So my phone number, first of all, is in here. Unlike most professors, I give not a Google number. I give this number right here. This is my personal cell phone, and I use it for a number of things. And I give my students the opportunity to be able to reach me using this phone number. And I say it following the phone number. You can call me, text me, or email me any hour of the day except the 25th hour of the day. You figure that one out, and it's there. When you do text me, please include your name. Please include what course you're in, and please include the question or comment or assignment that you're having or whatever issue it is. Uh, I only am this right now at this particular point. I'm teaching only 2 classes. I normally teach 3, and then the second term I teach 2, which I will be teaching 2. And some of you, I may see you there. Drugs and crime, and which is J250, and Introduction to Criminal Law, which is a fun course for me, and that's because of all the years I was a lawyer. Well, anyway, feel free to do that. Now, I don't know if you have any other professors that tell you that. Tell me, because I don't know anybody. All my colleagues say, "Are you kidding?" Says, "No, it's been very successful, and I work with my students on behalf of my students." And then you can email me any hour of the day is also. Now, my email that you'll see is my student email, but you also will see if you looked at the under the discussion section. And while we're here, let's go ahead and take a look at that. And that's in the student lounge, which I see, all of you guys have said, and I've responded back. But for those of you who have not done that, you will see this. Uh, Let me kind of move this around a little bit. Okay, so you'll see uh, who I am and tell you a little bit about me. Those people on the picture, got them covered up now. Let's put that back up there. That's Julian, he's 20. Richard, he's 24. No, he's 25. These two are 6'2". Both of these young men work with me in the ministry in the church. He's a minister and he's an evangelist. And then there's my wife. She's pastoring with me. That's Pastor Julia Ann. And then this is Julia Alexis. This is my other daughter. And she is a student currently at Rasmussen studying um, medical assisting and nursing. And then this is my baby girl. She is 12 years old. That's Jillian Richey. She's bigger than that now. So, but at any rate, that's my family who live with me. I have 4 others that are 49, 48, 41, and 29. So I got quite a crew. And then this tells you a little bit about me. This is one of my most exciting days, which just happened about I had my anniversary June 17th, I think it was, but uh, when I got my law degree from Northwestern University School of Law, with the challenges that you hear me talk about a little later. And then this is a little mnemonic that I encourage you just to copy. You can put it on a board and sticky and remind yourself that if you do all of these things, you'll be successful in life. Now, in this class, you won't do any arithmetic. Well, not really, but you will do the L's. Listen, and you'll learn, and then you'll earn, depending on how good you listen. And then you know you're going to be doing some writing. Skip the Y. You're going to be able to express yourself well in written and oral communication, reading out of that, and studying. The U is you. So you're in the middle of LAWERS. I don't care if you want to be a lawyer or not. These letters just happen to spell out any area that you want to do. You tell me you could use every letter in whatever it is that you do. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. There I am again saying it. Now, here is my email. Sometimes you'll see it with a 2. Either way, it comes to me from the school. This is my personal email, which you can email me yourself as well. I check all of them all the time because they're both linked to my phone and my computer. And then, of course, you're familiar with this number already. This number you rarely will use. As a matter of fact, I just don't even pay attention to it because we're not in the office anyway. And besides, my program is online, so I'm hardly ever responding to that. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you as well. And let's go back. Okay. Okay. So now let's move down here. Now, pay attention to what I'm about to say. You see those words are in all caps. Some young person said to me, whenever I see that in messages, I think you're yelling. I says, that's not what I'm doing. I'll not yell. I try not to yell. This is calling attention to it. Very, very, very important. These are very important points that I'm making to you. So you're required to conduct research for all papers. That means the sole source of your papers should never be your textbook. In fact, I always tell students, use your textbook as a starting source, and don't get into the habit of using that for your written assignments. Now, I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying the idea is to help you to um, branch out. We have a library and learning center, which you guys probably had some orientation and are familiar with. Anybody in here has not heard of the library and learning center here at Rasmussen as a resource? Type that in the chat box. If you don't type in the chat box that, then I'll say you know about it. But even if you did or didn't, you're going to learn about it in a few minutes anyway. It is very, very, very important to utilize that resource. I'm not saying that's the only resource, but then there are some things that you won't use, and we'll talk about that as well. So anyway, the textbook, you'll lose 2 points. Now that's not in your rubric. Some students say, well, I grade outside the rubric. I do. The rubric is 98% of my grading. I have a 2% that I use based on information that I share to you on the home page. And that is a requirement that you make sure that you conduct research. And the next point is all written assignments should be in APA format. If you are not familiar with APA, at the present time, we are shifting from 6th edition to 7th edition. Worry not, because the 6th edition information is some of the information that you'll still be able to use, but starting in the fall, it will be shifting to APA 7. So I'm going to share with you some resources that can help you in terms of APA. That involves tutoring as well as peer mentoring. So citations in the body, listen to me good. You'll see it in the rubric. This is how people lose points, and you can't get to a certain level in the rubric unless you have citations, not a gratuitous citation, not just throwing something in there, because citations in the body provide support for your statements in the paper. And even if you're an expert, or even if you're me, when I use some information, I cite the source as well. And then there are students who say, well, I cite myself. No, unless you're a noted authority on the topic that you're writing about, and most of you aren't, because you're students. And so as a result of the fact that you want to provide citations appropriately following the APA. I think I saw something that is gonna take me to what I'm gonna, for example, the writing assignment, would we cite the source in module 1 in the shape map? When we, that's a good point. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Just hold on, Trinity. That's a very good point. And I'm gonna answer that for you. So just hold on a second. I will be getting there in just a bit. So the key thing is, it's very important. And then references at the end. Even there's some places where you might not cite, there are places where you must use reference, and it's very important, because what we want to know is, where would you get the information you use in completing whatever it is that you're doing? So that's an excellent question. Thank you. We will not fail to address that. Trust me. You'll lose 1 point for not providing a cover sheet for all written assignments. By the way, there are no such things as dumb questions that you can ask me. There are a lot of times students will hold back because they don't want to be wrong. Well, that's okay. That's how you learn. Okay. Almost all professionals I know who do well, they didn't do well all the time. Okay. I have friends. I had professional athletes. Walter Payton, the late Walter Payton, was a friend of mine. Michael Jordan. I wasn't really a close friend, but we hung out a little bit, and I learned something about him, that he wasn't successful in every shot he made, as you know, but people don't remember the shots you don't make. They remember the ones you do make. So don't worry about making mistakes, but let's correct those mistakes when we do. So helpful resources deal with peer mentoring versus tutoring. And I'll let you click on these on your own time so you can take a look at these guides, except one, then I will open it up. Peer mentoring are students who actually have been where you are now, and they are here. They are on work study. They are the cream of the crop. They are the ones who gets the A and the B's, the honor roll and dean's list, and they are here to assist you in navigating the waters of this school. Unlike some schools, a lot of schools don't have this, but we want to, again, achieve student success in our students, and we're committed to that. And so peer mentoring and tutoring, they are not for people who are in trouble, but they are people who can help you. Sometimes there are things that uh, people try to reinvent the wheel when you don't have to. They've already been there, done that. So check that out. And then Student Success Guide, which just basically gives you some things that'll help you to be successful. The library answers frequently asked questions. You can click on that as well. And the writing guide. And then you can deal with that, checking that, and then your tutors also and peer mentors. Now, I do want you to be familiar with your library and learning resources. Reason why I want you to be familiar with that, guys, is because many of you are new to the school, is that it is important for you to understand that we want you to use credible, reliable resources. We want you to use resources that are not a lot of junk. We're not saying you can't use Google and Chrome and Safari and those other things, but we are trying to get you to understand that what the Library and Learning Center has done is they have vetted these resources and they have made arrangements with the publishers by either purchasing the rights or either getting a license to be able to utilize that in our school. And that's articles, there are books, there are videos, and many other resources that are there. So let me click on this so you can see it. See our, and the guide actually helps you, and it tells you about chat hours that you can reach the librarian. Does anybody know the name of our librarian for School of Justice Studies? Type the name in the chat box if you know. Anybody? Yeah, it is a male. His name is Dennis Johnson. You'll see in just a few minutes. I'll share that information with you. He's very helpful, very good too. But anyway, notice this. This is really neat. This, if you hover over it, it tells you a lot of the things. It tells you the guides. You can click on them. Open Grammarly. Are you guys familiar with the fact that you have a, no problem? I am. You'll those of you who hop on late, you can catch up by going when you get a chance to go back and listen to the video recording itself. But anyway, Grammarly is a method that we use. Good. Now, the Grammarly that you use, is it the one that you got here at the school, or is this your own? Excellent. Use the one at the school. And that, okay, good. Two reasons why you want to use the one at the school. It's free, and also it gives you access to plagiarism checks. If you have the free one, it outside of that the school, you will not have that. You'll have to pay for that. Yep. And I use Grammarly frequently. All of your papers, people, except the discussions, will be run through Grammarly. And if you get a percentage higher than 25%, I'm very liberal with it. And actually, in this class, I'll go to 30%. If you get anything above 30%, then I will be taking those points away. So let's say if you had a potential 100, you then have 70. And then I also have to report it to the school to let them know. And you want to get that fixed early on as a habit. All right. So we run all our papers through Grammarly. And then, like I said, this helps you find videos, the writing lab, APA information, tutoring. We'll talk about the transferable skills in a few minutes. Noodle tools to help you format your papers. By the way, does anybody know the standard font to be used for your papers? New Roman. What number? There we go. There we go. 12. New Roman 12. That's it. And it's very important that you do that as well. And then there are different webinars, and then there are YouTube articles. There's all kind of things. a writing guide for new students. This is a new student guide, rather. If you click on this, this might be something that you might be interested in here. I'm a new student and blank, 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 and you can go through this and you can do this on your own and you'll find stuff, that you needed to know there. So I just wanted to open that up for you so you can go back and you can be aware that that's there. Okay. Now, all right. Okay, so library staff, here we go. These are the School of Librarians. This fella with all this hair on his head is Dennis Johnson. And he is very, very willing and able to help you with some resources in the library. He's you have his email address here as well as Dennis. And you'll notice that most of us have it like this. Our first name dot our last name. Some of us have a number behind it at rasmussen.edu. We don't have the S-mail because S-mail in your mail stands for student mail. And so that's Dennis is the person that you reach out because you're in the criminal justice program. So you get to know Dennis. He's a very, very nice guy. I'm working with him on this special project. I've been assigned to work to rewrite a course, and that's on domestic violence. And you'll understand why I fit the mode to be able to do that in a bit after as we finish giving you information. So I'm just trying to make sure that you're aware of things that can help you. I want you to, again, achieve student success. And then here's tutoring and information, all that I've kind of reiterated. Here are some articles that are beneficial. All these are in here to help you. You could download the PDFs and just kind of glean them. They help you with going beyond the textbook, as we already talked about. Analytical tips, which we're going to deal with in minutes, dealing with critical thinking. Information literacy is very, very, very important. As I said, if you use the Library and Learning Center resources, you'll achieve that goal easily, but you can do that also outside of this. There is one particular one that's on our hit list. There are others, but there's one particular source that students cite, and we don't like it. And it will tell you up front. Anybody have any idea what that might be? Wikipedia. There we go. Wikipedia. And most people know why, because anybody can change it, the information in there. So we don't use that. If you do, you get dinged. You lose points. And somebody will say, oh, I didn't know about that. You know it now. And I don't assume that people know it. I say it. All right. So you don't use that. That is not a credible source of information. They say, yeah, but the information was good. I says, don't use it. Okay. Just leave it alone. There are many other places that you can find information. Referencing for criminal justice gets into the citations aspect. You don't have to worry about this last one. Critical thinking video. This is a video you might want to take a look at. There eventually will be a course on critical thinking that you will take at this school, but it's a beneficial thing. We try to cut your teeth in the early classes in these early classes, the 100 classes. Yours is a 115. And so we want to make sure that we don't chase you away with critical thinking, but we want you to understand. And all it really amounts to is, and I'm jumping the gun because it's one of our transferable skills, is we want you to use that gray matter up here at the top of your head to be able to come up with information that will benefit you to help you. Now, I know I'm telling you a lot of stuff today, but you're going to have the video, okay? So you can go and then you might be taking notes about certain things. But remember, one thing about this professor, unlike other professors, my course homepage contains a lot of good information to help you to be successful. Rubrics. By the way, I did skip over this. See my cap rubrics? Rubrics are very, very, very important. I think I kind of said that, but anyway, I'm just going back to it. And I may be redundant and repetitious, but that's the nature of a lawyer anyway. My law professor once said that all lawyers are redundant and repetitious. Try reading the contract sometime and you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, the point of the matter is that rubrics are in each written assignment and course projects, and you'll see that in this course. You might not have to worry about the second part, but in all your written assignments you have. Your discussion posts. Discussion posts are supposed to take the place of us being in class physically. As you know, looking at from the number of people who are here today, that and it's interesting. I've had more attendance since COVID-19 has occurred than I ever had before, since I've been teaching online classes, because the requirement is not that you have to physically attend the class, but that you can look at the recording itself. But you get the most out of it when you physically attend the class, because you can't ask questions of the recording. Of course, because I'm so liberal with asking questions anyway, I guess it's a difference. But when you can firsthand get it there, and then, like I said, this discussion post takes the place of us being physically in a classroom. I taught residentially at Rasmussen in 2011 and in 2012, before they start changing over to online formats. And so I adapted pretty well to it. And I can sometimes talk to a lecture when there's nobody there, because I've done radio for years. I don't see my audience, except now with the fact that we can put live in there and Zoom and all that kind of stuff. But I'm in the habit already of being able to do that. So I can speak without seeing any of you guys there. So anyway, the point of the matter is the discussion posts take that place. Each week you will have a different topic. What's your discussion post assignment for this week? Anybody know? There you go, Jennifer. No question mark. That's it. Don't have a question mark. I think people do that. Students do that because they think they missed something. No, there is not one this week. Okay. That was a trick question. I'm just trying to keep you on your toes, and I want to make sure that you're staying focused on this information, because if you get the stuff down for the first week, you can coast through the next 5 weeks. I don't mean just getting by, but that you'll be well aware of what the expectations is. So my computer's telling me I need some updates. I'm not doing that right now. So anyway, uh, so your discussion posts each week. Discussion posts initially are due when? Uh-huh. At 11:59 p.m. CST, which is Central Standard Time. And your reply posts are due when? Saturday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. Yep. The habit that I have as a lawyer is to give all the details on it, to make sure nobody misses out. So yeah, 11:59 p.m. CST. Now, your discussion posts should be content oriented, should contain information that demonstrates some critical thinking, some analysis of what it is that you are dealing with for that particular discussion forum. And the other thing is this, is I encourage citations and references, but don't require them. You will not lose points for that. But you will lose points for a discussion post that is like, hey, good post. I enjoyed the post. Yes, I agree with the question of the week. Elaborate on it. Give me some information. Let me see that you have provided details that will be beneficial to you as well. Okay. Then the other thing that I want you to be aware of is that your reply post um, should follow the format that's asked in the assignment itself. A lot of times it tells you to reply to a different thing than what you initially posted, maybe from another classmate. Uh, it does require that you do at least one reply post, but I encourage students to reply to as many posts as possible. I like that, and I let you know that I appreciate that as well. Now, let me say this thing about discussion posts. The forum ends Saturday night at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, which means that if you post the discussion post on Sunday, the discussion forum is over. But I give you a mulligan. Anybody who plays golf knows what a mulligan is. And what it is that basically I give you a break. And here's how I do it. If you post your initial post by the deadline and your reply post then is not posted until Sunday, you will get points for the discussion post appropriately. You'll lose 1 point for each day that it's late, but you will get 1 point taken away from your reply post if it's posted that Sunday. That's a little break I give to all of my students. Now, if you submit your discussion post, your initial post and reply post on that Sunday, it's not going to happen. The idea is your input will have occurred during the discussion forum with your initial post. So everybody should have that from the very beginning. All right. So let's move on from that. Now, I want to talk about this. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. When you are involved in a discussion in the classroom, that's a good question, though. Um, yes, yes, your opinions. But remember, when you do put your opinions in there, support your opinions with some information or explain why that is your opinion. But that's a very good point, and that's a part of discussion. So absolutely. And while I'm saying that, don't try to schmooze. You can disagree with what each other say, but be courteous, and also make sure that you back it up with some information. Don't just throw a statement. I just don't like such and such and such a thing. Okay, why? I don't like ice cream. Okay, why? Well, first of all, I'm lactose. I'm just telling you I'm not lactose intolerant, and that it always does stuff to my system and it makes me feel very sick. And so it's not very healthy for me. So that's one of the reasons why. Okay, boom, you've started to elaborate on it. And then maybe you could go a little bit more. But that I was just showing you an idea. So I try to explain to students that I try to tell you this: stay away as much as possible from getting into debates on politics. This is not a political science class, so we shouldn't really have it. But there are times when people throw in their political beliefs, but I try to discourage against them. And the reason why is because it opens up a belief that someone may be different. There may be different things that people might not agree with. Like, for example, there's people who don't understand Black Lives Matters, especially people in law enforcement, except that's changing right now as I've been speaking. I will tell you that in a minute. However, there are people who should understand the facts of the matter is that it is important for you to perform um, with all people in a, as I teach people, professional, educated way and respectful. I don't like, I teach all of my people that are particularly in law enforcement or in any other areas not to refer to people as piece of blank or those kind of things. Don't be condescending. You're a professional, okay? And it's very, very, very important that you maintain that level. So anyway, in your discussion post, you know, those kind of things, but feel free to disagree and that information there. Let's see, I think that's all I need to say about that. I've actually put myself ahead of the track by doing that because it speeds up the next steps. This is your schedule for live lectures, which is taking place right now. And then you will see that today is a little longer, and it says 10, but I said I may go longer and probably will, because I'm very, very, very tedious with this, because I've taught this a number of times and I have to say things more than once to make sure that it reaches everybody, because it's so quick that if you don't get it right, you're going to lose a whole lot of points. So week 2 is next Wednesday. Let me see, what was that question? I think I saw something about what. So our seminars not always set at a maximum. I don't know what you mean by seminars being set at a maximum of 1 hour. Then we don't try to operate in the vein. We try to do a minimum. Oh, live sessions? No, because here's the deal. I could do this in an hour or half an hour. Well, not for the first week because there's some additional things, but in every week, most of the time it will be done in an hour, most of the time. But the reason why, one of the things that I do that's different from some professors is I make sure I go over the assignments as part of the live lecture every week. All right. Some professors just dive right into the material and it's shortened, but I have found it to be beneficial to my students to take the time to go over the information. And sometimes they go a little bit longer, but there is no rule in the school. They do tell us though that our session should be at least a half an hour, at least. So, but mine, I have not any trouble with that. Does that answer your question? Okay, all right. Just remember this. I know the stuff, and I just want to try to make sure that I've taught this a number of times, and I'm trying to help you achieve student success. And I got 32 students in this class, and I'm trying to get it to the point where everybody can have a fair chance. I'm trying to make the playing field level for everybody, which is like a juggling of balls, but I'm going to attempt to do it. So anyway, weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it says, and if you have to leave, it's okay, because the recording, you can always go back and pick up where you left off in the recording anyway, so it's not a problem. You must attend the live lecture or listen to the archive, and then you'll give me a keyword or phrase that I will give you, and you'll be able to get your points. All right. Now let's go back and let's look at the resource tab for a minute. And the reason why I want to do that is because there is a very, very, very important video in here. I like to try to, let me see if I can do it this way. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna take off my headset. It's making decisions in confident.
Our live chat.
Okay. Let me say this too. I saw a few notes. Yes, it is kind of echoey, but they have no other way for me to do this. However, you can do this on your own. You can go back and you can always look at this video. It's only a 4-minute video, and it actually gives you the ideas of why we're so on to APA, and where you can also get an understanding. By the way, the gentleman that you saw is Dean John Mladic. He's the person who's the Dean of Library and Learning System, and he is formerly one of my deans at the Romeoville campus. But anyway, it's an important one, and the reason why I do this in the class is because even if a student has trouble listening to it, they can go back and play it back on their own, because it's under the resources tab. It's one of the tools that's in here. But there are many students who do go back and they pay close attention to it. So that's why I'm not really that concerned. If I didn't have my headset off, you wouldn't be able to hear anything at all. Okay. So it's very important for you to make sure that you go to this. I don't have to give you a link. I do give a link sometime, but it's no need of giving a link because now they have put it into the resources tab. So you'll be able to listen to it and play it back on your own computer. Okay? You got that? Okay. Yeah, it's very important though for you to be aware of this video because it actually uh, explains some of the things that are very important about this school. All right. So now let's talk about transferable skills. Transferable skills are 6 skills that we have identified in this school that um, require you to be able to be proficient at. How do we know that? Employers have told us that these skills are very, very, very important. And the first 3 that I'm going to cover are skills that are based on the individual or self-development and proficiency. The second 3 involve communication, involve diversity, involves professional responsibility, or if you can notice that in now you go outside of yourself and you're dealing with all other individuals and as well. So critical thinking, I've kind of talked about that a little bit. Basically, is just making sure that your assignments, that you have the capacity to be able to express yourself, that you're not just copy and pasters, that you're not just researching information, but that you're able to put information down in written and oral communication in a fashion that demonstrates some clarity, with precision, logic, and makes sense. That's what I'm looking for in your discussion posts. That's what I'll be looking for in your written assignments. Again, there's more opportunities for you to learn more about it down at the link at the bottom, which has more details if you're interested yourself. Right now, I'm just giving you a survey to let you know about these things. Digital influencing. Everything is digital now. Everything. I got this cell phone. This cell phone contains these things called apps, which, as you know already, is short for applications. And it contains so many different things on here. There's these little things. And I know all you guys are familiar with it. I have an Android. A lot of you guys, younger people, like apples. I don't like apples. I'm more of an Android person. And it's okay. The point of the matter is that everything's digital now, from your textbooks, from your classrooms, of course, from your how do you even pay your bills, um, you name it. Everything is digital. Even when you go to the store itself, everything is digital. And so you need to effectively understand how to use digital tools like Word, like understanding what a PDF is all about, learn how to navigate the systems of Google, Chrome, and those browser type things, understanding how to use the library and learning center resources and other resources. Information literacy, we kind of already talked about that, recognizing when information is needed and possessing the ability to locate, evaluate, effectively use needed information. We kind of talked about that when we referred to Wikipedia, but make sure that you have credible information that and be aware of the fact that there are some sources that people use that are written, like for example, of course, if you dealing with a paper on dairy farming and you go to the National Association of Dairy Farmers, they're going to provide their own views. If you're dealing with, for example, the Second Amendment, guns, you're going to have the anti-gun and pro-gun people. It's okay. But the point of the matter is, and that information is fine, but make sure that you have some information that's based on research, okay, and those kinds of things. So those are the first 3 that you deal with in yourself. So we want you to be good at those. I am a natural critical thinker because I went to law school. They teach us what we call the Socratic method. And I actually teach my classes kind of like that in a way too. Digital fluency is something I had to grow into because when I graduated in 1978 from law school, there was none of that around, but I'm very proficient with it now. And then I know about credible information. The last 3 involve very important things that kind of self-explanatory. Communication is what we call, I say in biblical terms, the Alpha and the Omega, which is Greek, which means the beginning and the end. It's the all in all, and communication is what we do. That's how we connect as humans, and even animals do the same thing. But you need to be able to be proficient in written and reading and oral communication. Those three are very, very, very critical in criminal justice and in all fields that you do in life. You already saw in my lawyer's mnemonic that being expressed as well. And understanding of nonverbal language, we generally are able to do that. You're going to have people that speak different languages you may not understand. I speak what they call poquito in Espanol, which means a little bit of Spanish, but I can speak enough Spanish sometimes to tell a person uh, yes or no. By the way, do you know how to say no in Spanish? Anybody? Okay. All right. That was a trick question. And I had a person that says, "How do I say no to a person who speaks Spanish?" I just say no. Okay, but that's English. I said, it's Spanish too. Okay, I get it. But anyway, the point of the matter is that that's my, my point is you got to be able to communicate with people, reach people, all right, and the capacity to be able to get your jobs done. You already know that anyway. Diversity and teamwork. Diverse people are from all over the world. United States is a melting pot. United States is made up of immigrants, except the Native Americans. And, you know, and it's offensive to use the term Indian, as you already know, or many of you should learn, because the fact that we want to make sure that we're not offending any individual groups or anything. We want to be aware of the fact that you can learn something from people because everybody's going to do things differently. I pastor a church. There are people who worship with us from different ethnic groups, different races, and beliefs, but we still communicate and we respect each other. But the key thing is work together for for the good of the public. Exercising the E word, empathy. Someone referred to me once as Mr. Empathy because I'm very empathetic when it comes to dealing with people. I'm sympathetic, but I'm more empathetic because of the fact that put yourself in somebody else's shoes and stop judging people by what you think. Or let me put it to you this way. Um, we have a diversity and inclusion committee. Give me a minute while I pull this down here. Um, I am doing this for a reason. I have a book. I have a book here that we're using. I'm on the diversity and inclusion um, committee of Rasmussen College, and we're using this book called Blind Spot. I don't know if you can see it that well. Anybody ever heard of Blind Spot? Or familiar with Blind Spot? It's available on Amazon, but the book is it deals with hidden biases of good people, and it's a book that we're actually doing sessions on and showing how people have unconscious biases, and it's just basically learning how to communicate with people from different backgrounds. I'm 70 years old. I have lived through Jim Crow. I have lived through the Dr. Kings. And so the situations that are happening now, when the Civil Rights Act of 64, I was 14 years old. When Brown versus the Board of Education, which desegregated schools, 1954. I was 4, but the point of the matter is that I have gone to schools with people from various backgrounds, and we have learned from each other. And so diversity is very, very, very important for you to understand. Teamwork, you're going to work with people from various backgrounds and perspectives in life. So they want you to be able to work with people in teams. You're going to find that when you start to work in criminal justice, you work with people from all professional areas, lawyers, you're going to deal with judges, you're going to deal with probation officers, parole officers, correction officers, and the list goes on. Forensic, scientific people, medical examiners, and so forth. And then ethics. I tell students ethics is the beginning and the end. At all costs, ethical practices are so important. There's a course that you take here. I used to teach a course on ethics in criminal justice, which they bring it back because there's some special ethical issues that criminal justice individuals face that others don't. And then I taught ethics in medicine. I taught ethics in business. And then I constantly remind people that learn to do the right thing the first time, learn how to do things well the first time so you don't have to repeat it and those kind of things. And not only that, if you develop the habit of good ethical principles and practices in school, you will be the same as a professional. If you try to do the same unethical stuff in school, eventually it will catch up with you. And just be aware that they want ethical people, professional people who have understanding about the code and conduct. As a lawyer, we had a code of ethics. In every area, you have a code of conduct, and they want you to possess those skills as well. So our school teaches that and wants you to be proficient in all 6 of these. If you want to learn more about this, you can click on this and you'll be able to see it there. All right, so again, there's some more information here about the library information and other things that I've covered as well. Okay, let's go back to the course homepage. So we got the writing process, which you can click on and you can see that as well. These are all here for you. APA assistance, we've already kind of covered that, but this is really cool. If you click on the guides here, it'll open you to the toolbox. There's a toolkit and it helps you to deal with, and you see here it says 6th edition, but remember what is happening is that we're moving to the 7th edition. So you have 6th edition down here, but this information up here starts to point you towards the 7th edition, and it gives you all kinds of things to help you as well. That's why I told you, I said I have sources on the course homepage that will help you. Okay. Now, this is important for you to be aware of because new students sometimes don't get it. Especially if you're new to online, students are expected to meet attendance requirement on or before the 6th business day of the start of a quarter or term. And, so what does it mean? Here it is. It means completing one or more of the course requirements, posting in the discussion posts, posting of required assignments, completing quizzes and exams per week deadline. Discussion posts in the student lounge area of the classroom are encouraged, but they don't count as attendance. Okay, so the discussion post itself, and we've already kind of talked about that. All right, the welcome announcement, I'll kind of like go through that one. Here it is right here. You saw this earlier. Take the time to go through it and make sure all of the highlighted points are things that you are familiar with. We've already covered pretty much all of these. We're going to cover the syllabus in a minute. General course question is one I do want to bring to your attention. That is also under discussions, and you can pose a question that everyone has an opportunity to learn. Don't put your private information out there and anyone can answer it. The resources tab you're familiar with already. The report tab is where you get your grade book, and then this is other information here as well. Okay. So now let's take a look at the syllabus. Well, actually, no, yeah, let's do that. Let's take a look at the syllabus. Syllabus is the contract between you and the school. It explains the requirements. Intro to criminal justice, you had that already, J100, or either you're taking it now, but usually they have you to take it. And then tells you what the textbook is. By the way, speaking of the textbook, I email you each week the PowerPoints, which you receive for this week. The PowerPoints are there to help you. I don't discuss them in the lecture, but what they do is it's a summary of the chapter to help you. And when you get ready to prepare for exams and a review of what you read, not to have the PowerPoints to be used in place of reading, but to supplement and to give you a summary of it or review method. Okay, and let's clip over this. And these are the things that you're supposed to do in this course. Readings, discussion assignments, written assignments, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes, quizzes, and there will be six. Each are multiple choice and true false questions. All right. And I will tell you from the beginning, try to take your quizzes at the end of the week, i.e. this week by Sunday. And the reason for it is because you will have had a chance to go through the materials, you will have had a chance to listen to the lecture, and then you will have a chance to probably have completed your written assignments, which will help you with your quizzes as well. And remember what I said, that your rubric is very important in your written assignments, but your PowerPoints are very important in helping you to prepare and review for your quizzes. And then we already talked about live classroom lectures. And then this tells you you got a total of 628 points. If you notice, look at what happened. Look, quizzes. Look, well, assignments are the biggest part, followed by quizzes and discussions. So that's how you get your points. And then your live classroom lectures, you get 5 points for each of your live classroom lectures. Okay. I will make this announcement once. My goal is to get you from A to B minus. Do not ask me how to get a C in my class, because I won't answer it for you. You don't need me to tell you how to get a C. You can do that all by yourself. So I'm not going to answer you in that vein. So I'm making it up front now. And inevitably there are students who will come back near the end of the course and says, I haven't been keeping up. And so what can I do? Well, there are things that you need to do in your first 3 weeks that are important that you won't be able to do in the second half. And we'll talk about that coming up. But my point here is, don't ask me about how to get a C in my class. I don't answer that. We already talked about transferable skills, attendance policy you can check. Now, I already talked about discussion posts. So let's talk about the late assignment policy overall. For those of you who are new to the school, you may submit your assignments, which are due on Sundays at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we're not talking about discussions, we're talking about written assignments. And that includes quizzes, by the way. And each day that you're late, you lose 10%. Now it says up to 7 days, but if it was me, I wouldn't be that excited about that extra those losing 10% each day. I wouldn't be excited to say, oh, I got 7 days. Okay, because here's what's going to happen. The first day, if you do it well, of course, you're going to get 100. If you do everything that you're supposed to do, you'll get your points, or at least you'll do well enough to pass and maybe get a B or above. But my point being is that on Monday, it goes down to 90%, and each day accordingly, so that by Thursday, you're at 60%. And that's, look at it. That's where you are right here, D minus. You don't want that to happen. All right. So it's very, very important that you understand that. It is also important for you to be aware of this one little line that people miss. And so I read it. Instructors may waive the penalty or time frame in the case of extenuating circumstances as determined by the faculty. What that means is I determine what is extenuating and what is not extenuating. It's very important for you to understand that. So you want to make sure that you get that done. How do I know if you have extenuating circumstances? I already told you how to let me know. Personally, if it was me, there are students who have let me know about extenuating circumstances by sending an email. If you have a situation, you probably want me to know as soon as possible. So what would you think would be the best method to try to reach me? Yes, both of those are right. Both of those are right. Phone or text, both of those are right. And the reason is because then I may answer, and then if not, I'll get right back to you. Leave me a voice message, give me the details. But texting is good because then I will read it and then I will try to call you back. Don't be surprised when you text me, as one student found out already, that I will call you and talk to you. There are some students who said, I'm surprised. My professors don't, they don't, I said, forget about your professors while you're in my class. Just remember, you're going to do it the right way. And that's no pun intended. Yeah, it is. Okay. The Richard Wright way. And the Richard Wright way is to be there for you, to be able to help you, not to leave you hanging. You have enough anxiety to deal with in life in a period, and we recognize that life happens. But let me know what's going on. I don't want your obituaries. I don't want your written armed military duties. I don't want your medical doctor letter. This is college, people. Okay. You don't have to do that. All right. I believe you because you know why? Because I know you're ethical. And if you're unethical, it's going to catch up with you. Trust me. And those kinds of things. So we also have situations that you should be aware of that because of the situation we're in, and I've had several students that it actually did happen where they were either the subject of COVID-19 directly or indirectly. And so because of the fact that, excuse me, I have students in states with their high numbers even, and i.e. Florida, Texas, I have some in Kansas, Arizona, and I have other places. Anyway, the point of the matter is that we appreciate and work with you on it, and we can do a lot of things to help you out. But we got to know, okay? All right, that's it. Your incomplete grade policy, I'm not going to look at that. That's between you and your academic advisor and or dean, and then we work from there. But I am the one who decides whether or not to grant an incomplete. Once again, I have, but you know, you got to do the right thing and do it the right way. Take time to read the academic integrity policy over yourself and, you know, those kinds of things. If you have any questions about that, rather than address them to me, address them to the dean at your school, and they can answer many of those questions for you. And that's it for the syllabus. Now, we haven't even gotten to the assignments, but we will in a minute. Just hold on. Remember, I told you this is an open house. All right, so now let's go to, I want to show you, I already, okay, the announcement, I'm going to show you in just a few minutes as one place to get information. But here is something that you should be aware of. There is a course calendar, and you can access yours at the top over here. Let me move this away. Here it is right there, and it'll take you to it. But here is the course calendar. Now, when you look at it, say, wait a minute, it only has a little bit of information. Actually, you click on it, it opens up, and it helps you to see the information. So what each week, so this week, Monday, we started. Your live lecture is taking place right now. And then there is no discussion post this week. Normally you would see something there and you would see something here. Next week, you'll start to see that. And I'll talk about that next week. So this week is really easy for you. You just have your readings, and then you have your discussion post, your written assignment, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and then your live classroom lecture, and then should be the quiz. No, that's right, it moves down. It's the first one now, I think. Yeah, there you go. And your quiz, and we'll comment about that in a minute. So that's where, and throughout the whole thing, notice that your class ends on the 11th of August. People, you have your class is not full 6 weeks, it's 5.5. So that week 6 actually starts on Monday and it ends the next day. So that's just how it works here. All right. And then actually the next day term 2 starts. So anyway, the point of the matter is that's how it works. So class ends on the 11th of August. Make a note so that you don't think it ends the 16th, because it will not. Anything done after the 11th will not be graded. Absolutely not. Okay. On your home page, every week you will see an announcement. And it gives you information like what I already gave you, but you'll have it right there. And it tells you what is expected for that particular week in terms of assignments. And then I tell you in here, there is no discussion assignment this week. That begins next week. And then, of course, the assignments for this week are the quiz and the written assignment components of corrections. And then I tell you about this. Adversity is a springboard to success. I'm going to try to explain that to you as quickly as I can in just a few minutes, because I want you to understand something about me that will help you in terms of doing well with me as a professor. And you guys don't know it because you're new to the school, but other students have had me before. They know it in detail. So let's take a look at what the assignments were for this week. So here they are. Now, components of corrections, and it tells you what you're going to do. Create a concept map or infographic. Let me tell you up front, do not submit it in the form other than this, a Microsoft Word document. It needs to be a Word document, okay? And then there's help down here that I already talked to you about criminal justice tutors. So what you're going to do is create a map or infographic that explains the 4 components. Describe 2 unique elements for each one, okay, with color, organization. It's a chart. Now, what I want you to do is, an answer to your question, go to the rubric, which is due Sunday. Here's your rubric. Be familiar with this. Your rubric has, okay, on the left side, the functions of the assignment. That's these are unique elements and the content. Now, be aware of this. Citations are very, very, very important. But you will notice that in order to, here's what I would get to if I was you. If it was me, I would act like these first three columns don't even exist. This is where I wouldn't even look at them. I would look at the mastery and 20% exemplary explanation of the functions of each of the four components with thorough supportive details. So what that generally means in a situation here is that I'm not going to be so dogmatic on citations, but I am going to be dogmatic on references. Where did you get this information from? Remember what I said about your textbook? Okay, utilize that information there. All right, next week you're going to learn something about how you will lose a whole lot of points. The difference. If you look at what it says to get down here, if you stay in this whole column all the way through, here's how many points you're going to end up with. 18, 19, 20 points out of a possible 40 points. I think I'm right. Yep. Yeah, out of a possible 40 points. So you can only get half the grade. So you want to try to focus your attention to mastery. Please hear me on this. Too many students don't get it, and they don't read what it requires to get into mastery. Okay, two unique elements, exemplary, and somebody says, that exemplary is a relative term. Well, I kind of break it down, or the school breaks it down, because I didn't prepare the rubric, but I like the rubric because what it does is it makes you focus on here. Some people like to, get in here, then you get to the C area, the B area. Here's you want to get the AB in this area here, but this will put you in the C area. This will put you in the D area and the F area. Any questions? Okay, wait a minute. Let me go back to what she said, because I want to make sure I answer. Can you explain further what describe two unique elements mean? Where are you looking at? Oh, you're talking about, yeah. Describe two unique elements for each of the four. You'll discover that from your reading, and that's in the rubric. I mean, in your PowerPoints. What's unique about the area that you're working, whether it's jails, prison, probation, or parole? What's two unique areas, depending on which one you use? Got it? Or need any more? Well, the answer to that question is, if you should be able to determine in this page, because this doesn't tell you how many pages. All it really does is it tells you to make sure that you cover the requirements of what they ask for in the rubric. By the way, it is in this case it's a single space, but you could list statistics, but you're also going to have to support those statistics with some explanation of the context that they apply in. Got that? Okay, let's go back. These are good questions. I'm going to show you something, help you out there. All right. Create a visual map that explains the function of the four components with supporting examples: jails, prison, probation, parole. Okay, because these are the four concepts of corrections. These are the only four. So in each one, maybe I should make it clear to you this way, because I said whichever one you're working in. If you're working in jails, you want to satisfy the requirements. When you're working in prisons, you want to satisfy the requirements, probation or parole. But describe two unique elements for the components of jails, components of prisons, components of parole, and probation. Present in visual with colors an organization to engage the reader so that I'll be able to see it, and use professional language using correct spelling and grammar. You got it? Because it's a chart, I mean, let me say this, it's probably going to be 1 to 2 pages at least, the chart, because you're going to be able to fill in the information. Anybody else? Okay, so this is different. The first week's assignment is different, and I'll tell you why it's different. The reason it's different is because there is no discussion post. So you got more information that's needed for this written assignment, because you got the one thing, the quiz. Other than that, most of them won't involve all of that. Okay. All right. We're at 10 o'clock, so I got to keep moving because I'm already behind. Just about done with the with the assignments, because the only other thing is, now I want to tell you this about this only course that I teach that has this. You have multiple choice and true false questions. It's a time quiz for 30 minutes. You get 3 shots at it to complete the quiz before the due date. So that means that if you submit two tries by Sunday and the third one by Monday, I'm not counting that one because it's after the date. But you have 3 tries at it. You will be given alerts about the time and everything. And then you'll agree to abide by the academic misconduct policy, which means that you don't have notes and stickies and all that kind of stuff there. So again, as I said, don't have your PowerPoints out and all of that there while you're doing it. Don't do that. It's supposed to be an empty desk. Any questions about the quiz? I think it's very generous that they gave 3. This is the only course they're doing it in, but that's an attempt to help you because you guys are new, to help you come in. That was a smooth move that they made when they changed the other course to this. This is the only course I know. Maybe there are some more that do it. Not any of the other ones I teach where you give 3 shots at it. I think that's very generous. And then your live classroom as well. Okay. So each week you're going to have one of these, but you got 3 bites at the apple. So however you want to do it, you do it. Okay. And by the way, you know what that means, right? When you do it 3 times, what's the final grade going to be? Yep. That's exactly right. The highest score. So, and it's not averaged out. That's another thing one student once asked me. So nope. Okay. What was that last comment? When will you be given the code for the live classroom and the highest? Oh, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you in a bit. I've already talked about it several times, but I'll be giving it to you soon. All right. So just hang in there. Anything else before we get to, because I'm actually going to be done, other than talking about the adversity as a springboard to success. But it is very important for you to understand that. That's why I hold the class phrase until after that, because this is the only week that we do that. Okay, when you ask, uh, when will I be given the code for the live classroom and the highest? What did you mean? And the highest? Yeah, that's what I said. The highest score. Yeah, that's what I had said earlier. Somebody had mentioned it already, one of your colleagues. And I don't do it. I don't grade it. The system grades itself. It automatically submits the grade. I don't do the grading for that. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. Okay, not yet. No problem. So let's go back and finally, normally what I would do, and I'm not doing it tonight because of what this is for, I'll discuss each of these objectives and I would cover, and actually I've covered many of these things already, but I'm not going to cover them tonight. The transferable skills, we've already talked about that. The four correctional opponents are jails, prisons, probation, and parole. And I'm not going to go into the details of that because this will explain to you the details about each one of those four. And then finally, parole. By the way, that and all of this came straight from your book, by the way. So when you read your book, you're going to already know this when you get to this point here. And then there are some little things that you can do that will help you in terms of lining these up. For example, sentences are 1 year or less. Where do you go? Jail or prison? So you put that over there. Okay. Sentences are at least a year and a day. It should be sticking here. Here we go. Operate at federal and state level and can be privately, jails or prison. Excuse me. Often include option for bail or conditional release. Houses people for pretrial and includes booking. And then typically jurisdiction of the sheriff. Which one is it, jail or prison? Yeah. Some people say, oh no, we got to go over there to balance it. Nope, it's over here. So those are the kinds of things that you do the same thing for probation, parole, and then there's some information to help you with evolution. And then, by the way, I cannot tell you, do not fail to look at this before you take your quiz. The vocabulary review thing. It is so important because it's a quiz, and what you're really going to do is you're going to line these up, and I'm not going to do it, but it helps you to get ready. And then there's 5 that help you as well. And so those are just some of the things that will help you as your assignments go from that. Okay, so that's normally what we would go over in a normal week. we'd cover these, but we're not going to do that today. But you need to yourselves. All right. So now let me say this to you. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to go as best I can to tell you a little bit about me that you understand. My motto is adversity is the springboard to success, and I want you to understand that. When you guys as students have adversity, you should be aware of the fact that that means that you're going to run into problems achieving student success, including success in anything. My road started when I was a kid and my dad was murdered when I was 7 in front of my face. The guy who did it turned out to be a live-in boyfriend with my mother and my dad. And he stabbed my dad Memorial Day of 1957 in the forehead in front of my face. I'll never forget it as long as I live. He didn't go to jail for it. He stayed in the house. He then began to beat my mother profusely. So thus I was raised in a home of domestic violence. My mother and father had 2 kids. One boy, that's me. And at the time my dad was killed, 5 girls. After he died, then my mother had 2 more kids by this guy named Webster Scott, who killed him. And so between that period of time, we had all kinds of times the police were at the house. As kids, I witnessed so much domestic violence that it's there, and I have a photographic memory, so it doesn't go away. That's why I remember I told you, I says I'm helping to write that course because I'm ideal for that. Then what happened is that the way I found out there was no Santa Claus is he got upset with my mother, and he tore the closet door open, and there were toys top to bottom. He pulled the toys down, chopped them up with an axe, and said there was no Santa Claus. That's pretty traumatic stuff, people. And so in 1963, he killed her. He killed my mom and stabbed her multiple times, not in front of us, but let her bleed to death. We were brought back from where we were living in Indiana, Gary at that time. We were originally in Chicago on the west side when my dad was killed, but we moved to Indiana in 62. And my mother had us there. And after she was killed, we were brought back to Chicago to stay with an aunt who didn't want us there, turned us into servants in the house, and we had to do chores while her kids went to the YMCA and all those different things. So it was pretty bad, people. And she decided that they were going to split us up, all 8 of us, 6 girls and 7 girls and 2 boys, 1 boy rather, me. But my other aunt came and she said that's not going to happen. One of her sisters, and took us and had a house built and moved all 8 of us into the house with her husband. Well, it didn't get better. It got still pretty bad because my uncle, who was her husband, wanted me to take his name, and I didn't want to do that, not out of disrespect, but because I was the only boy and could carry the name on, and he didn't respect that. Yeah, yeah. Let me clarify that. The man who killed my dad didn't go to jail and beat my mother was the same man, because he was her live-in boyfriend after that. He killed her in 1963 and fathered 2 more girls. Yes, so that's true. So in 1963, so he was sentenced to 10 years, I found out, and 10 meant 5. And I found out for good behavior he would serve 3.5 years, and that's what he served. I was 14 by that time, and I found all that out, and I was just livid. And when I get livid, I ask questions, and I start trying to figure out what this is not right. Well, someone ultimately told me that these people called lawyers. So I went to the library at school, and the librarian told me he had a book on lawyers or attorneys, and I checked that book out and read it cover to cover. And guys, after I read that book from cover to cover, the next day, anybody I met, I didn't care if I knew you or not, I said, my name is Richard Wright, and I'm going to become a lawyer. And that was my life's mission. And so I began, you know, staying with my aunt, having trouble with her husband. I found out later, by the way, one of the issues that I really kept feeling, but I wasn't able to prove it. But later I did find out he was sexually assaulting my younger sisters. So it was pretty tough, guys. So I pressed through that. And it came time for me to get ready to graduate from high school. And the church and the community that I became active in, because I stayed out of the house as much as possible, as you probably could probably imagine, to get away, a break from this bad situation, because domestic violence still continued even with my aunt and her husband, because they had guns and they would pull the guns out. And we were caught in the middle and several times, and it was just bad. So anyway, the church said that they would give me a scholarship. All my aunt had to do was sign, but she couldn't because her husband wouldn't let her. So I said, that's okay. I'm going to leave when I turn 19, and I graduated in 1969 from high school. And I met some friends, and they let me come and stay at their home. In the meantime, I stayed there, and I started taking classes at a junior college at night. But one of the friends I was staying with, their mom had a good friend. She was a secretary in a big law firm downtown in Chicago. And yes, I got a job at that law firm starting in their mailroom. And I would take packages for their clients. And during the course of that, I had an encounter and met a gentleman by the name of Ray Kroc. Anybody know that name, Ray Kroc? Anybody know that name? He was the founder and creator of the Golden Arches. Not the arches, but the company, McDonald's. And there was a story that was a movie that was done about him, Ray Kroc. And anyway, I met him and got to know him. And Mr. Kroc encouraged me to continue to move forward. Well, in the meantime, I got married in 1970, and I married a young lady that was in high school with me. And then here comes kids, one in 71, one in 72, two girls. So we were both in school. She was studying to be a teacher, and I was at the junior college. And we had no car. I got my own apartment with her, and it was very sparse. We had a mattress. We had a little small TV. We had box for a table. We had a refrigerator, but it didn't have much food in it. But it was a tough time. But guess what? I went to work. I had to be at work at 8:30, ride two buses and a train, and then I'd have to be there at 8:30 and would get off at 4 and have to be in class at 4:30 downtown in Chicago. I had to carry books, but we didn't have digital stuff. So it was tough, but I did it. Incidentally, I stayed on the honor roll and dean's list dealing with all of that stuff. So in the meantime, it came to a point where the law firm saw, and they moved me from a file clerk to a law librarian. I'm sorry, to they moved me from a messenger to a file clerk. And then I became the law librarian. And as a law librarian, notice I'm edging closer to where I want to go. And I taught myself how to do legal research manually because we didn't have systems then. And so the bottom line was that's what I ended up doing, and became what's now known as a paralegal, but they call it a law clerk. In the interest of time, I'm cutting out a whole lot of stuff here, but these are things that are pivotal for you to understand about me. And so then it came to the point where I left the junior college and went to a four-year institution called Roosevelt University, where I began to study political science, minor in accounting, and continued working full time at the law firm as a messenger, not as a messenger, but as a paralegal, or as a law clerk, as they call it. Because I went to court with the lawyers, I did all kinds of things, help them draft documents, and I went to closings with them, business deals. I did all that stuff. So anyway, came time for me to take the LSAT, and I was doing well at Roosevelt, by the way. I still stayed on the dean's list and honor roll, even with all of that stuff. Still didn't have a car, still on public transportation, feeding those two kids, and so forth. And I was the main worker at that time. So then I took the LSAT, which I didn't do too well at. But by the way, just so you'll know, the LSAT is still offered, but they're moving away from it because there have been debates about the value of it, because I didn't do too well with the LSAT, but you already know what happened to me. But let me tell you how the road came about. And so it came time for us to apply to law schools. I had one law school in mind, and that was Northwest University School of Law, which is a distinguished school. Chief Justice John Paul Stevens, governors, mayors, the owner of the White Sox, Jerry Reinsdorf, Eddie Einhorn, other big business people came from Northwestern University School of Law. Our current governor that we have, several other governors we've had. But anyway, the point of the matter is that it was a well-known school. And it was a hard school to get into. But I put my application together. It was a little 6-page thing, but I submitted documents. My package was big enough to fit into a big box, and I sent it over by one of the lawyers. And the school had said that they didn't do personal interviews, but there were at least, my recollection, at least 1,000 people, at least 500 to 1,000 people applying for each of the 250 seats. That's a big numbers, people. But guess what? I made a decision. I wasn't arrogant. I was just confident. I knew I was going to do this. I knew this was going to happen. And so I ended up getting a call from the school, despite the fact they didn't do personal visits, and invited me to come. And I did. And I went and met with a staff of people, and they interviewed me. And they listened to me for over an hour, and then they adjourned, came back, and says, "We like everything we heard. We think you're going to be a good lawyer. We think you're going to be successful, but we don't make decisions based on this. We just were curious about this package." But what we will tell you is this, is that we're going to send you a letter that I think you'll like. Well, that was their informal way of telling me. And then 2 weeks later, I got the letter of acceptance into the law school. Sorry, people, get a little. Whew. And I got it. I got it. I got in. And when I got in, I found out a couple of things. Number one, that I couldn't work in my first year of law school. They didn't have night school. And so I had to leave the job with the law firm. Well, we graduated. My wife graduated at that time with her teacher's certificate. She began teaching, and I began studying. It was a challenge. It was a tough, 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 tough curriculum. But then all of a sudden it got worse, because the job that my wife had at that time was a teacher that went on strike. And there went the only income we had. And we ran out of money to pay rent. The landlord worked with us. We ran out of money. Commonwealth Edison didn't work with us. They turned off the lights. We didn't have, we had a gas stove, and that worked. And so we had hardly any money for food and stuff. And so we sent the two kids to their grandmother. My wife's mother at that time didn't live too far. And we weathered it out, studied by candlelight and flashlight. And I would go to class, and people didn't know. And And so anyway, it was challenging. And then it got so heavy on me that I told one of the professors, and it was Joyce Hughes, I got to leave. She said, before you do that, come to my office. And she sat down with me, people, and she said, you're a smart young man. She says, you can do this. She says, I'm not letting you out of here until you agree to stay. And so I did. And then about a month later, the strike ended, and I began to get back into normal. Well, 3 years later, I graduated, 1978, from the law school. During the course I was in law school, I met a gentleman by the name of Eugene Pencham. He was a distinguished criminal defense lawyer. He, in turn, became a judge later, and he mentored me. I used to go to his house and sit because his son was one of my classmates, and we ended up talking about things that were happening in the law. And then after everybody else would leave, I shared with him, Judge Pencham, my story of what I went through earlier in life. He said, you need closure, and he took me to the courts building and got the files, which I have now, and I'm doing a book, by the way, about this. And he told me, he says, let me give you some good advice. He says, you might want to be a prosecutor. I said, well, I'm not sure about that. He says, if you want to really learn this system, be a defense lawyer. What he was saying to me, people, was defend murderers, robbers, drug dealers, all kinds of people. And I took him up on it. And I left the law firm, by the way, I went back there, by the way, after law school and worked 2 years and then left in 1980 to start my own practice. First, I started working with other lawyers, but their ethics were not good, so I couldn't do that. So I ended up starting Richard H. Wright and Associates, a law firm. I started doing radio, created a show called Know Your Rights, which was spelled WRIGHTS. My phone number at the office was 974-4487, which spells WRIGHTS, and my practice was taken off. But I still had a lot of issues because I had to manage the office as well. You have to watch people that work for you because they will get you in trouble when your name is at the top of the stationery, and I ran into some issues. At any rate, I was good with my cases. I had a high percentage in the 90s as far as not guilties in front of juries, and I did well. And so my wife at that time and we ended up going in different directions, and we ended up divorced, which, by the way, I forgot to tell you that when I graduated from law school, there came a third daughter. She was born in 78 as well. And so we went our different directions. I continued to raise my kids. I met a young lady, and then another young lady, and we got married. And then she and I had a daughter. And at the same time, I joined her church, and I found myself in a situation where I found out her and the pastor were doing their thing. So you know what I did based on what I told you that happened in my childhood. I immediately got out of that situation. I met a young lady, and we became friends, and then we started dating, and then I married her, and she and I will be married on July the 28th, 20 days from now, 26 years. And she and I have those 4 kids that you saw earlier in the picture. Now, in the meantime, let me back up. When I was married to my second wife, the one that cheated on me with the pastor, her mother became the village president of a town called Ford Heights, and I became her village attorney. I told her I would not take the job unless I carry a gun. She said, you can't carry a gun, only police officers. So I said, well, what can I do? She says, well, we can't pay you, but if you want to be a volunteer part-time police officer, we'll pay for you to go to the academy. I didn't realize what I was doing then, but yes, I did it. And so I became a police officer for 4 years. I never wore a uniform, but I had my badge. I had my hours recorded with the state. and I had my revolvers. I worked on drug raids. I worked on street stops. I worked on everything. And so I was the village attorney slash prosecutor and investigator because the chief of police was crooked. So I became the internal affairs investigator for a new chief. So I did all of that, 89 and 93. Excuse me. I didn't realize that that would be something because I wasn't looking at teaching criminal justice at that time. So anyway, going ahead with my current wife, we ended up uh, around 2000. I decided I'm done. No more law for me. And I began running a janitorial company for a company called Service Merchandise in Illinois, 26 stores. I was the head of that. And then I started doing closings for title companies and teaching special education dealing with at-risk and behavior disorder kids. So I did that. And then finally it reached a stage where in 2011, someone came to me and brought to my attention this school that I had never heard of called Rasmussen College. And they said they were looking for someone to teach not criminal justice, business law. And I took and applied for the job residentially. And I got the job and was hired in October 2011. Well, I quickly let the dean know that I was a criminal justice person, and they placed me in the criminal justice program as an adjunct professor. And then in 2014, the position opened up for state program coordinator of the School of Justice Studies in Illinois, and I became a full-time. And after that, they told me, they says, we're going to go online. And so I started having to learn how to teach online classes. Well, since that time, guys, between 2012 and now, I have taught many, 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 many students in all areas: corrections, probation, parole, um, law enforcement. A few took me up on it, and I mentored them and helped them navigate the waters to become attorneys. And I enjoy doing that. And so I find myself in a situation where I bring to you all of what I went through to let you know why I say adversity is the springboard to success. Each of you will have your own adversity in life. And that's why I say I'm very empathetic, because I've been there and lived that. And so I had to take a long period of time to do this tonight. But I want you to know me. I want you to feel comfortable with me because I'm not your typical professor. I'm a person who mentors and helps students. I've even surprised students showing up their graduations in other states. I'm in Illinois, like down in Florida. And I do those kinds of things because I want my students to understand that I totally, totally, totally am committed to student success. And so with that, I'm going to say good night to you guys. You can reach out to me. And the key word is what? Anybody want to take a stab at it? I've said it several times. Nope, that's a good one. Close. No, success is close. Put it on, put one on there. Put something on there. Actually, I just said it. Student success. That's it. But all of those things fit within it. In the past, I used adversity as a springboard to success. But no, the key thing that I want to use this time, and I want to launch you guys in, is student success. Okay? Well, good night, guys. Again, uh, thanks for staying with me. I'll see you next week. We will dive into the material. Any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here for you. Good night and have a good week. Stay safe. You're welcome.